The gaming industry is changing, but for some, it's not changing in ways that they seem to want it to. And with today being the day that Battlefield 6 has officially launched, it proves the stark difference between what players actually want versus what the industry thinks that the players want. This will be kind of a weird video, a hybrid of Battlefield meets Assassin's Creed, but it all makes sense in the end, trust me. You all know Battlefield 6 is out now. You're probably playing it already at this point. It's currently blowing the doors off the building and players are swarming DICE's servers like locusts right now ready to play, and I don't blame them. As seen here from GameSpot, Battlefield 6 is having a massive start on Steam alone. As this video being made anyways, as seen here from Steam's charts, Battlefield 6 has already eclipsed 700,000 plus players, which is, yeah, absolutely insane. Some reports are claiming that DICE has made somewhere near $100 million in pre-order sales alone with its debut. So it's safe to say that what we're witnessing is the dawn of a mega blockbuster on our hands. And really only Black Ops 7 will be able to challenge this meteoric explosion of profit this year, maybe, and we are genuinely likely witnessing the biggest game of the year unfolding before our very eyes, and yeah, it's exciting. But there's something else about Battlefield 6. There's not really any controversy that has plagued it like other games have this year. DICE said that they won't do dumb skin collabs. There doesn't, at least so far, seem to be any weird ideology nonsense in the game either. Battlefield 6 is just a video game where you play the thing, and that's kind of weird, isn't it, really? I mean, you don't get that too often, and it's kind of nice to see, honestly. You see, the reason why I said this video is weird is because I wanted to use the massive launch of Battlefield 6 and then place that as a big example against this other story that I want to talk about at length, which has annoyed the gaming press. This has to do with Assassin's Creed. Like I said, a weirdo video maybe, but it'll make sense in the end. So in case you don't know, recently it was confirmed that Ubisoft has quietly cancelled a future Assassin's Creed game in the making. The exact plot of this game would have been about an escaped black slave who joins the Assassin's Creed after the Civil War in America, and then hunts down the Ku Klux Klan members in the Deep South. Basically, it would be sort of like Mafia 3, but you're an assassin instead, which actually doesn't sound like a bad idea for a game. However, it got cancelled, and the journalists, well, they got mad. The reasoning for why this Assassin's Creed game got cancelled was because Ubisoft cited the current political climate as well as the backlash to Yasuke and Shadows as key reasons to not pursue this game idea. And if you enjoy the content and want more non-BS reporting on games, consider liking the video, subscribing, commenting, all of that, thank you. But this now leads me to thegamer.com, who again, like always, wants more games like this. Here's that article and it's titled, "It's unbelievable that Assassin's Creed canceled its coolest concept ever." So all of this originally came from a GameFile article, which is this one on screen here, where Stephen Totilo, the ex-head of Kotaku, spoke to Ubisoft insiders about the project. Here's exactly what GameFile said as it reads here. "The Ubisoft people were enthusiastic about the game but were also frustrated by its cancellation, which they perceived as Ubisoft bowing to controversy. 3 sources told GameFile that word filtered through the company last July that management in Paris had stopped development of the game for 2 reasons. 1, online backlash that sprung to the reveal of Yasuke, historically inspired Black Samurai, as a protagonist in the company's then upcoming Assassin's Creed Shadows, and 2, concern that the political climate in the United States was becoming increasingly tense. As one Ubisoft dad said, as seen here, it was too political in a country too unstable to make it short, and that's interesting. Well, if you ask me, Ubisoft probably made the right decision here. I can already hear people saying it's because you don't want a game where white people are slaughtered or something. No, again, I think games like Mafia 3 or Wolfenstein The New Order were totally fine, and I enjoyed those games, which by the way have an entire segments where you shoot clan members in Mafia or, you know, Yahtzees in Wolfenstein. No, you see, the problem is that current day Ubisoft does not really have the ability to create a game with such concepts without it coming off as total parody and honestly a waste of the setting. Let's be real, for anyone who played Shadows, Yasuke was a pointless character. He frankly should not have even been playable at all. And the implementation into Shadows was ridiculed because the man was not a samurai, and Ubisoft disrespected the history of Japan by making that game. I spoke at lengths already in my Shadows coverage where I played the game myself and showed examples to everyone that Ubisoft had no idea how to make their Japan-themed Assassin's Assassin's Creed game work or really do anything new. They also did stupid things like make Yasuke's canon love interest none other than Lady Oichi, which is this woman on screen here, a real historical figure by the way. And Japanese players were rightfully appalled that Ubisoft would make the literal historical figure known as the Mother of Japan the canon love interest of Yasuke in their game. Lady Oichi, in case you don't know, she was a devout wife and mother to her husband, a lord whose castle in real life was besieged and destroyed by enemy forces. In actual history, Oichi sent her children away to safety but refused to leave her husband's side. They both ended up dying in the inferno of their castle falling apart. Lady Oichi then became a symbol of love and devotion and marriage to the Japanese people, of how the bond between man and woman is unbreakable and how sacred marriage was as a concept. Yet Ubisoft took her and made her the canon love interest for Yasuke, insinuating that Oichi was actually unfaithful to her husband, which is absolutely insane. This is just one of many examples in Shadows where Ubisoft had no ability to navigate the history of Japan and make a game that honored that region. Before the game came out, Japan was in uproar again because Ubisoft allowed the sacred shrines of Japan and their priests to be destroyed by Yasuke. By allowing him to run through these shrines and destroy anything, he could also cut down priests and priestesses with really no retaliation. It was just Ubisoft yet again allowing the desecration of Japan because they didn't know how to deal with or honor the history of the area. Of course, due to the backlash, they patched it so those shrines and such couldn't be harmed, but only after the international community slammed them for it. They called it a mistake, as seen here from thegamer.com, who tried to save face for Ubisoft, I guess, but the damage was already done. Circling back to this 1870s Ku Klux Klan Assassin's Creed game idea, I don't think that current day Ubisoft could have honestly done it justice. They couldn't even get Assassin's Creed Valhalla right. Like that DLC with Ragnarok, it was awful. The story was terrible. They couldn't even get Japan right either. They would absolutely turn their clan Assassin's Creed game into a political sledgehammer just for statements pretty much. And they would also, like they did in Japan, just fill it with non-binary people and whatever other modern day nonsense slop they could too. And I would guess that Ubisoft would unironically add rap tracks to the game too, despite rap not existing in that time period. And before people say that isn't a reach, it really isn't. Because as seen here from Dexerto in 2024, Yasuke originally had rap beats as his battle music in Shadows because he's a black guy. It's as stupid as it sounded. Ah yes, rap music from the modern day as music for your imaginary black samurai protagonist in Japan of all places, which takes place hundreds of years ago. You really think Ubisoft would have been able to navigate or do a clan Assassin's Creed game well? If you do, you're gullible. It would have been Yasuke Assassin's Creed Shadows nonsense on steroids. TheGamer.com, however, believes that Ubisoft was being cowards by canceling this clan game. Here's exactly what they said. I'm not going to mince words. Ubisoft management got scared amidst a growing resurgence of conservative populism in the gaming space attacking anything deemed progressive. Paired with global politics swinging harder to the right, the company decided to take the easy way out by canceling the game outright. Despite internal excitement about the concept, ask yourself why the world is going more right. You know the reason why, but you won't say it. But of course, the person who also wrote this article, named Tessa Carr, was someone who also praised Dragon Age Veilguard, which already tells me pretty much everything I need to know about them. You're pretty much just butthurt because you can't play a game where you get to live out your violent fantasies again through a video game is what this Tessa person is saying. Just say it for what it is. You want more games that enforce your worldview and your view the harming and ending of specifically white people to be something that you want to see more of in games. I'll say it outright for you since you want to be a coward and not say what you really mean. Look, nobody is against a black protagonist in Assassin's Creed or anything else. Every other game that has starred someone who isn't white in Assassin's Creed has either done well or been praised by the community of fans worldwide. Bayek in Origins is still one of the best characters in the history of Assassin's Creed, a dark-skinned Egyptian man voiced by a black guy. And I actually wanted another game with Bayek over anything else because Bayek was genuinely awesome. You even had Adewale from Black Flag who had a DLC expansion where he freed slaves in the Caribbean, and where was the backlash then? Right, there wasn't any, but the Ubisoft during their prime, which was when games like Black Flag, Assassin's Creed 3, Assassin's Creed 2, Far Cry 3, and more were being made, they were actually able to navigate these time periods and make fun games first that didn't feel like violent, hateful simulators. And let's be real, the rise of woke garbage propaganda, because there's no other way of putting it, was nowhere to be seen in the very early 2010s compared to how it is now. Gaming journalists also back then especially were actual journalists who united the players and brought communities together and reported on what people actually wanted to know. Versus the journalists of today like Tessa Carr of The Gamer here, who is crying because she can't end more white people in the virtual world again. The gaming industry is a different place now, and the acceptance of said rot has done nothing but become a net negative towards the greater gaming community. These people have poisoned the ideologies that they uphold and ruined the good faith and trust that the journalists before them fostered because they believed that they were all saviors, when in actuality, they're just freaks with keyboards. Want an example of how I know the previous Ubisoft could have done a clan AC game well without pissing everyone off like they would now? Go look at Far Cry 5, came out in 2018, right before the invasion of DEI and wokeness in games. And Far Cry 5 is essentially what the clan Assassin's Creed game would have been like had it been under the older, better Ubisoft leadership. It would have actually been a better game that probably also wouldn't divide audiences. Although Far Cry 5, which had a white man-led cult, didn't really alienate its fans either, because it was more than just a political sledgehammer. The main character was a prophet-like character, and Ubisoft smartly used their setting with Far Cry 5, and I hate using this term, but they did it to subvert expectations. Far Cry 5 was a financial success, and fans loved the game, but how did the industry respond to it existing? They hated the game because it wasn't pushing their ideology enough, like the Outline.com back then with their article titled, "Far Cry 5 wants to talk about Trump's America, but it doesn't know what to say." Actually, it doesn't at all, because Far Cry 5 is about false prophets and how the people are often weaponized through ideology to become hateful themselves without even knowing why. And that sounds like certain kinds of people, I won't say it, but they know who they are, but if you played that game, you'd know that the main villain was kind of right, and that the ending proves that. It was not about Trump's America really, but everyone, but the gaming press wanted it to be this one thing and the main takeaway, but it wasn't. Or you have TheVerge.com back there with their article titled, "Far Cry wasn't a game for the Trump era, but it tried to be one anyway." Except it didn't. You were just mad that the game was a video game first that offered real escapism instead of being a political bludgeoning tool, like I already said, that you would just use to enforce your agenda, TheVerge.com. And this is what I mean, okay? The only way the gaming press would love a clan Assassin's Creed game would be if it was like Shadows. If it just beat you over the head with the political talking points time and time again. But if this game was made when Ubisoft wasn't riddled with activists, the gaming press would have absolutely thrown this clan game into the dumpster as well, because it wouldn't reinforce their hateful ideology the way they wanted it to, just like they tried to do with Far Cry 5. And Far Cry 5 would have probably been considered one of the best games of 2018 if Ubisoft said that Trump was bad, but they didn't, because it wasn't about him. And the only people who did try to pull the game down and ruin it wasn't the fans, nope, it was the gaming press, and they know it. But what they also don't realize is that Far Cry 5 was also kinda making fun of both liberals and conservatives alike with its messaging. Like I said, it was about weaponizing ideologies, and that applies to both. The game was all about false prophets and how people blindly follow those who say what they agree with. That can apply to both sides, guys, come on, even if they don't ever want to admit it themselves, but that's mostly because journalists these days have the brain capacity of a slug. It's really too bad, because back then we had great game reviewers like Greg Kasavin, who is this guy on screen here who used to work at GameSpot. And what does Greg do now? Alright, he created a little studio known as Supergiant Games. You know the people who made Hades 2, Bastion, and Transistor, to name a few? Yeah, Greg Kasavin was a game reviewer, and then he went on to make amazing games himself and founded that whole studio. That's the kind of game reviewers we used to have. Now we have people like Tessa Carr of The Gamer who's crying because she isn't getting her clan bashing game. We really didn't know how good we had it back in the day, did we? Of course, Ubisoft now doesn't really control their own IPs anyways. We know Tencent pretty much owns them now, and they're already condensing Ubisoft's talent into a mega joint studio with Tencent called Vantage Studios. Vantage is now the home of Assassin's Creed, Rainbow Six, and Far Cry, and I guarantee you that there's no way in hell that Tencent is going to allow Ubisoft to continue ruining these IPs with stupid concepts that just aim to vilify their consumer base more than anything else. And circling this back for a second to Battlefield 6, that's what I wager the future of the industry is going to look like more in the future. Games that are just games. They aren't going to beat you in the head with political jargon or attack you for not agreeing with them. I'm confident that Battlefield 6 was made by people who were both right and left leaning in mind, because that's how games used to be made. It involved everyone. And that's where I think the industry is going to be going eventually, which is a return to that mid-2000s, early 2010s style of development, which was optimal, where the games could have political themes, but they would be used to enhance their games and tell stories unique to those worlds without attacking the player base instead. The only difference now is that places like Saudi Arabia and China will become the handlers of these once Western-owned places instead, and that the Western industry was left alone to make what they wanted for about 15 years or so, and all they really really did was make a lot of slop that nobody bought and then ruined everything. So now you got these foreign nations coming in with their ideals, like strict parents who will be watching places like Ubisoft or EA like they're toddlers, trying to put a fork in the electrical socket and getting stopped from making further stupid decisions. Of course, Tessa of the Gamer won't see the positives either. She's mad that her propaganda will just die in the end. She's angry that the industry in ways will be healing itself, but it will take a lot of time, and I don't think that we're out of the woods yet. Of course, Tessa had more dumb things to say, so here's what she said. It's not like there isn't a demand for games where characters fight oppression. Machine Games, Indiana Jones, and The Great Circle performed well critically and commercially, especially after the game was ported to the PS5, and that's a game where you punch Yahtzees. I can't say the word, I'm sorry on YouTube, but anyways. And you had Wolfenstein, a game from the same studio that's also about murdering Yahtzees on mass, is getting a hotly anticipated television adaptation. It shouldn't be controversial for games to unequivocally take the stand that the Ku Klux Klan is bad, slavery is bad, and pushing back against oppression is good. Red Dead Redemption 2, frequently hailed as one of the greatest games of all time, features many instances where you do exactly this. For that matter, it shouldn't have been controversial that Yasuke was put in a video game. By the way, the Ku Klux Klan in Red Dead, it was a very small part of the game, but of course they won't tell you that. But anyways. Either way, Tessa here, you're comparing games that have more nuance and were made by far better development teams to an imaginary black samurai, breaking shrines and betting literal Japanese royalty, okay, Tessa? It's not the same thing. Wolfenstein was able to find a unique angle that I'm worried that they will ruin in the future with another game, probably because Machine Games is probably just full of activists at this point. Sure, Indiana Jones was pretty authentic and people enjoyed it for what it was, besides that one community manager that tried to celebrate Charlie Kirk's passing with a gift from that game, but even then. And then you had Red Dead, which was written by the Hauser brothers, who always knew how to skirt that line where they could, equally make everyone angry at them, both liberal and conservative alike. Like how games used to be when they were fun and actually interesting first? You can't compare those to Yasuke or whatever else. It's the coughing baby versus atom bomb meme all over again. I also love this Polygon article, which is this one on screen here, calling the Clan Assassin's Creed game a powder keg, with the picture on the article that of AC Liberation's main character, Aveline. Yeah, people sure didn't like that Aveline, except not really. She was totally accepted by the fan base and people really liked the game too. I beat Liberation myself back in the day. It was a fun game. I had zero issues playing as a black woman because Aveline wasn't depicted like a literal psychopath or annoying freak. She was instead a human being. So it's kind of hilarious that Polygon would use her as the image here to push a narrative that really didn't exist with Liberation at all. Didn't we also just get Mirage, which starred a Muslim man and no one was against it and the game sold well too? I thought, Mirage was fun as well, and I'm not a Muslim man. How can I enjoy that one too? Wow, it's almost as if you have diverse protagonists, it's totally fine, as long as you don't depict them as annoying or culturally insensitive like Yasuke or something else. You see, these journalists don't really have brains is what I'm getting at. I'm convinced that when the wind hits their skulls, they hear a whistle. And look, the reality is that if these sorts of games were selling well, people would be making them. But after Ghost of Yotei, Assassin's Creed Shadows, and more, it's clear that it's not going the way that these people thought that it would. Instead, what does sell from your Clair Obscurs and your Silk Songs and your Battlefield 6s now are games that are just that, video games. And if these developers want the chance to make a Clan Assassin's Creed game or something like that, they're going to have to understand that they need to stop being absolute psychopaths when it comes to their messaging or the source material if they want these things to be anywhere near a success. And let's be honest, when these sorts of games get made anyway, they don't get bought enough either, so there's not enough people that really want these games in the end either way, so it is what it is. But when it comes to something like Battlefield 6, it's going to do gangbusters, and if you compare it to the previous two Battlefields, which tried to push non-binary operators and nonsense like women in World War II on the cover of the game, the difference here is very stark. And it proves in the end that people are just sick of this stuff. They just want video games. And if the concept of people just wanting good old-fashioned escapism annoys you somehow, that says more about you than the audience. But what do you think? Should Ubisoft have made that game or not? And is Battlefield 6 more so what you want from games in the future? Like I said, a weird video, but that's nothing new on this channel, let's be real. But as always, thanks for watching, subscribe, and see you next time. Oh, and Ubisoft, make an ancient Rome Assassin's Creed game, please. Thanks.